Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're cutting through the noise on a topic that carries this invisible but, well, incredibly heavy weight for millions of people. Living SSDI.
It really is complex.
For so many, depression isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's, a profound medical condition. It can truly make everyday tasks, let alone holding down a job, feel utterly impossible.
That's absolutely right. And for you, our listener, our mission today is really to unpack this intricate process, qualifying for SSDI when depression is the main challenge.
Right.
We're drawing from a pretty comprehensive guide. And look, while we'll zoom in on Virginia and its unique state-specific stuff, we'll also connect the dots to relevant factors in neighboring states. Think Maryland, North Carolina, West Virginia, Kentucky, too.
Yeah, good point. Our goal is to empower you with some actionable insights, really help you understand this pathway toward, hopefully, potential financial stability. So let's start with the basics. How does the Social Security Administration, the SSA, actually view depression for disability?
Okay, so the first thing, the really crucial thing to understand is that for the SSA, your condition has to prevent you from doing what they call substantial gainful activity, SGA.
SGA, right. What does that mean in practice?
Well, for 2025, for most people, it means earning over roughly $5,550 a month. But here's the real insight. It's not just about the money you can't earn.
Okay.
It's the expectation that your depression must consistently prevent you from working at that level for at least 12 months. Or, tragically, be expected to result in death.
Wow, okay. That 12-month duration, that sounds critical.
It absolutely is. It's not just some bureaucratic hurdle. It's where a lot of initial claims falter because, it requires proving a chronic, debilitating condition, not just temporary sadness.
So it's proving the long-term tangible impact on your ability to do any kind of work, not just your old job.
Exactly. Any work.
What specific symptoms does the SSA really look closely at? How do they tell the difference between just feeling down, which we all do sometimes, and a truly disabling condition?
Right. Good question. They look for persistent sadness, of course, a profound loss of interest in, well, almost everything that's called anhedonia.
Anhedonia, right.
Debilitating fatigue that's way beyond just being tired. Significant sleep problems, appetite changes, intense feelings of worthlessness or guilt, severe concentration difficulties, even suicidal thoughts.
That's a heavy list.
It is. But here's the key takeaway, maybe the most important part. It's not just about having these symptoms. It's about how they create functional limitations. That's the term the SSA focuses on.
Functional limitations. Can you give us maybe some vivid examples? How do those limitations play out in real life, maybe tied to specific jobs or regions like you mentioned?
Absolutely. Let's imagine someone in a high-stress tech job, say in Northern Virginia. Their severe concentration issues from depression might mean they can't focus on coding for more than, say, 15 minutes at a time. They're constantly missing crucial deadlines. That's a functional limitation.
Okay, that makes sense.
Or think about debilitating fatigue for someone working in agriculture, maybe out in the Shenandoah Valley. It might mean they physically can't sustain the demands of farm labor for more than an hour or two a day. Full-time work. Impossible.
Yeah.
The SSA needs to see how symptoms, maybe like chronic irritability or even slowed movement, directly interfere with basic job duties, not just that you experience them sometimes.
That paints a much clearer picture. So once we understand how depression needs to impact you, the SSA uses a very specific guide, right? A rule book.
They do. This is where their official rule book, which people often call the Blue Book, comes into play.
The Blue Book, okay.
And for depression, they specifically look at listing 12.04. That covers depressive, bipolar, and related disorders.
Listing 12.04. Got it. What are the core criteria someone needs to meet under that listing? It sounds incredibly precise.
It is very precise. There are basically two main requirements. First, you need solid medical documentation. Proof of a depressive syndrome with at least 5 specific symptoms from their list, and they have to be consistently present.
Okay, 5 symptoms documented. What's the second part?
This is the kicker, honestly, and where many claims hit a wall. You also have to demonstrate either an extreme limitation in one specific area of mental functioning or a marked limitation in 2 of those areas.
Extreme or marked limitations? What kind of areas are we talking about?
They're quite specific. Things like understanding, remembering, and applying information, interacting with others appropriately, concentrating, persisting, and maintaining pace, that's a big one for work, or adapting and managing oneself.
Concentrating, persisting, maintaining pace. I can see how that directly relates to work.
Exactly. And it's not just about ticking boxes on a form. The SSA wants to see how these limitations directly translate into why you can't work. A common mistake people make is just listing symptoms without explicitly connecting them to job tasks.
That's a really critical distinction. Okay, but what if someone doesn't perfectly meet that Blue Book listing? Maybe they have 4 symptoms, or their limitations are significant but don't quite hit marked in 2 areas. Is their claim just denied then?
No, not necessarily. That's a common misconception. If you don't perfectly meet the Blue Book criteria, the SSA then moves on to assess your residual functional capacity, your RFC.
RFC, residual functional capacity.
Okay, this is a crucial step. They look at all your limitations, physical, mental, everything, to figure out if there's any job out there, even a simpler, less demanding one, that you can still realistically perform despite your depression.
So the focus shifts from, do you meet this specific listing, to, can you do any kind of work at all?
Precisely. This is where the evaluation often gets very detailed. And it's where, for example, administrative law judges, ALJs, say in the Richmond hearing office, will really scrutinize your functional limitations very, very closely during a hearing.
This state-specific stuff you mentioned, it sounds like it could really matter. How significant are these local nuances, especially in Virginia?
Oh, they're highly significant. Virginia's Disability Determination Services, DDS, they handle the initial reviews, and they often require you to go for what's called a consultative exam if your own medical evidence isn't quite strong enough or clear enough.
So they might send you to their doctor.
Exactly. And another quiet but I think important factor here in Virginia is that mental health stigma, unfortunately, it can still sometimes delay people getting a diagnosis or seeking consistent treatment.
Which makes getting that early, thorough documentation even more vital for your claims strength.
Absolutely vital. The earlier and more consistent your records, the better.
And I imagine access to mental health care itself probably isn't the same everywhere in Virginia. Does that play a role?
It plays a huge role. You see really varying levels of access. Big urban centers like Richmond, Northern Virginia, Fairfax County, down to Norfolk. They generally have more robust psychiatric services, more specialists.
But rural areas.
But when you look at rural areas, like out in the Shenandoah Valley or the Appalachian region, finding providers can be much harder. There just aren't as many.
So what does someone do then?
Well, this is where cross-border healthcare can become really relevant. Someone living near the D.C. line might see specialists there, or near the Maryland border, maybe near Baltimore, or even down towards Tennessee or North Carolina or West Virginia.
And those records from out-of-state doctors are still important for a Virginia claim.
Absolutely critical.
Yes.
As long as they're properly obtained, those records can significantly strengthen your claim. It shows you're seeking care, even if it's inconvenient.
So if you're navigating this specifically in Virginia, are there any particular strategies or resources, things unique to the state, that you can use?
Yeah, there are a couple of things. Virginia has a pretty well-established network of mental health courts and community services boards, CSBs.
CSDs, okay.
These aren't just places for support groups, though they offer that too.
Mm-hmm.
They can be really powerful allies in an SSDI claim.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been consistently involved with a CSB, for instance, they might be able to provide official support letters, maybe even testimony about your consistent treatment and the functional limitations they've observed. That can carry real weight.
That's really helpful to know. What about timings? Does it take longer in Virginia?
It's also useful just to be aware of the local wait times. For an initial decision in Virginia, it averages around, say, 3 to 5 months right now. But keep in mind, DDS backlogs can vary. Virginia might be different from Kentucky or West Virginia at any given time.
Wow, okay. Understanding all these criteria, the listings, the RFC, the state stuff, it can feel pretty overwhelming. So the natural question is, how do you actually build a successful claim? Let's talk about getting the evidence right.
Yes, this is really where the rubber meets the road. The absolute foundation is thorough, consistent medical records, and I mean all of them.
From everyone involved.
Everyone. Psychiatrists, therapists, counselors, even your primary care doctor, if they're involved in your mental health treatment. These records need to cover your whole treatment history. Every medication you've tried, SSRIs. Others, what worked, what didn't. Every type of therapy, like CBT or maybe even ECT. The dates, your responses, side effects, all of it.
And it's not just about what the doctors write down, is it? Your own experience, your personal story, that has to matter too.
It matters immensely. Your personal narrative, which you usually provide in a detailed function report for the SSA, is incredibly powerful. But you have to be specific.
How so?
Don't just write, I can't concentrate. Instead, use concrete examples like, because of my poor concentration, I spoiled 3 batches of product at my factory job last month, leading to a formal warning. Or, my fatigue is so bad I often can't shower or prepare meals. My spouse has to help. That specific detail helps the SSA understand the real-world impact.
That makes sense. Connecting the symptom directly to a limitation in daily life or work.
Exactly. And speaking of impact and navigating the system, the role of a local SSDI attorney, especially one based in Virginia who knows the local administrative law judges, that can be critical, particularly if your case goes to a hearing. They understand the nuances.
Right, because the judges might have different ways of looking at things.
They do. And we know it's a tough road. You mentioned, I think, the statistic earlier, over 60% of initial claims are rejected. What's the most crucial advice if you get that denial letter?
Yeah, that's a scary number. What do you do?
Appeal. Appeal promptly. Don't get discouraged. The reality is, most people who are ultimately approved for SSDI benefits get denied at first. They succeed on appeal.
So persistence is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't underestimate the power of just keeping a simple personal journal. Track your symptoms daily or weekly. Note your good days, your bad days, how symptoms affected specific activities. It provides ongoing first-hand documentation that could be invaluable later on.
Okay, let's dive a bit deeper into gathering that comprehensive evidence. Beyond your own notes and the doctor's main records, what specific types of documents should listeners really try to get?
You want to collect every single piece of paper that shows not just your diagnosis, having depression isn't enough, but your adherence to treatment, and most importantly, the functional impacts of that depression.
So proof you're following doctor's orders.
Yes, that's important. Also things like formal psychological evaluations if you've had them. Records from any hospital stays related to your mental health. And think outside-the-box statements from previous employers, if possible, about performance declines or specific problems you had meeting job requirements.
Are there specific places in Virginia that are good sources for these records?
Well, major medical centers are obviously key. Places like VCU Health in Richmond, UVA Health, Centara in the Tidewater area, Inova in Northern Virginia. Those systems often have comprehensive records. And if you have seen providers in surrounding states, Maryland, NC, wherever, make sure you get those records transferred properly following HIPAA rules. So everything is in one place for the SSA reviewer.
Okay. Now, depression is often called an invisible illness. Are there any objective, maybe quantitative tools or ways to get third-party insights that can help make the invisible visible for the SSA?
That's a great way to put it. And yes, there are tools. Quantitative scales like the PHQ-9 or the Beck Depression Inventory. These are questionnaires your doctor might use to assess severity. Getting those scores into your records can be really effective. It shows an objective measure of your depression over time.
So numbers can help.
Numbers can definitely help. And don't forget the value of third-party statements. Letters or forms filled out by family members, close friends, maybe even former coworkers who saw firsthand how your depression affected you daily. They can corroborate your limitations and provide that external perspective that the SSA finds useful.
That makes sense hearing it from someone else. This all sounds like a lot to manage, though. I'm sure people run into common problems or hurdles. What are some of those, and how do you get past them?
Yeah, common challenges definitely exist. We mentioned stigma, potentially delaying treatment. That's a big one. Another is inconsistent medical records, maybe gaps in treatment if you couldn't afford care or felt too depressed to go.
Right.
And sometimes you just face skepticism from the SSA itself about these invisible illnesses. They might question if it's really severe enough to prevent all work.
So how do you overcome those?
The best defense is a good offense, really. Seek care as early as you can and be consistent. Maintain regular visits with your doctors and therapists, even if you feel like treatment isn't working perfectly. Compliance looks good. And crucially, ask your doctor to fill out a residual functional capacity form.
That RFC form again.
Yes. These forms are designed to specifically translate your symptoms into concrete work-related limitations. They explicitly quantify what you can and can't do: lift, stand, concentrate, interact with people. It directly addresses the SSA's main questions.
And for the hearing, if it gets that far?
Be prepared to honestly describe your daily activities, but always frame it in terms of your limitations. Not just, I watch TV, but I try to watch TV, but I often can't follow the plot because my concentration is so poor. It's about illustrating the struggle. Persistence, consistency, and detailed evidence. That's how you navigate it.
So let's wrap this up. What does this all really mean for you, the listener? Today, we've done a pretty deep dive into what it actually takes to qualify for SSDI with depression. We've looked at the SSI's definitions, the Blue Book criteria,
Right, listing 12.04, the RFC.
navigating Virginia's specific landscape, the DDS, the access issues, and importantly, how to build that robust claim with compelling evidence.
We've really hammered home the importance of documenting your functional limitations, how the illness affects what you can do, seeking consistent medical care, maybe getting legal support. It's all part of presenting that clear, consistent story backed by solid proof.
And this whole journey, it really highlights a powerful truth, doesn't it? While the challenges of living with an invisible illness like depression are just immense, and trying to get support can feel like a real uphill battle, every single effort counts.
It really does. Persistence, detailed documentation, taking the time to understand the system, these aren't just bureaucratic hoops to jump through. They are genuinely your most vital tools in advocating for yourself.
So here's something to think about. In a world where, a broken leg or a physical ailment is often readily seen and understood, how might a deeper, more empathetic understanding of mental health, both by us as individuals and by our institutions, reshape how we provide support and recognize what true disability looks like?
That's a powerful question. This deep dive hopefully has offered a pathway to understanding a complex system and maybe, just maybe, a new perspective on the power you have through documentation and self-advocacy, especially when dealing with challenges that can't always be seen.